We're actually doing our last session based on my little book, Don't Try to Stop Stuttering, Replace It. This is the last session on this book, and then the week after next we'll be starting a whole new series. So if you have specific questions, or issues that you would like for me to address, please be sure that you send them to me. Now, if these issues or your questions or challenges are specifically covered in one of my programs, I may touch on it, I may address it, but I am going to direct you to the program because more than likely I've covered it in such an expansive way that I wouldn't be able to do justice to it in this particular program. So I do want to encourage you to send me in your questions, your comments, and your challenges. Okay, so we're going to be getting started in just a moment, and I look forward to doing this last session with you based on my book. As we're getting started, just a few introductory remarks, if you will. Be sure that you check out my free programs. I have a lot of free audio and video and so forth out there. You can find a lot of it on YouTube. Some of it you have to sign up for. If you're on multiple mailing lists, that means you're going to get multiple emails, sometimes in the same day or in the same week. And they're probably going to be based on different things. If that's too much for you, feel free to unsubscribe from any of them or from all of them if you like. You can always come back and resubscribe. I do want to encourage you, though, to check your junk and spam because a lot of times these emails don't get through. So if you're not really receiving any emails and you'd like to, please go in and check your spam and or junk and add my email address to your contacts. Add it to your contacts and say not junk so that you'll start to get them. And what these emails are designed to do is to prompt you. It's to keep this whole journey at the top of your mind. It's just kind of to remind you and to motivate you, to encourage you, to prompt you. And I know that a lot of stuff that we get, we don't read, or we intend to read it. We say, yeah, I'm going to read that, but we don't. So just the more you get it, then one day you need it, one day you're looking for it, and it's there. And that's the reason that I send it, okay? Because I know that you might not need it this month or next month or this week or next week, but when you do need it, you want it to be there. The other thing that I want to encourage you to do is to check out my Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group, so not anyone can join. That is, you can't just come in, sign up, and join. I do have to approve you, and there's not an application process or anything, but who do we want in this group? We want people who, first of all, are taking some of the free programs. We want people, particularly, who are also taking the Pro 90D or the coaching. Why? You tend to be more committed to this process. Now, realize that there are some people that can't afford that, and you're still committed. We want you. Why do we want people that are committed to the process and that are taking the free programs as well as the paid programs, and now who are subscribed to the mobile application? Why do we want people like that? Because you understand this approach, this movement, if you will, and it's a movement away from seeing stuttering as something that's permanent, seeing it as, or seeing yourself as being a victim of stuttering, right? It's a movement away from that kind of thinking. It's a movement away from looking for cures to stuttering. It's kind of a movement away from even trying to treat stuttering, okay? What we're actually moving towards is what kind of a speaker do you want to become? Do you want to be an excellent speaker? You want to be a powerful speaker, a great speaker? If so, then this is the approach for you. And in order for you to understand that, you have to have taken some of my free, or be taking some of my free programs, as well as the paid programs. So you might come in and you might ask a question that I've covered in depth inside the Pro 90D. And let me just tell you, and you'll hear me repeat this again, I've covered just about every conceivable question with regards to improving your speech as a person who has stuttered in the past. I've covered just about every conceivable question in the Pro 90D speech system. It's a comprehensive program. I've coached quite a few people. I've heard from lots of people over the years, and virtually every question that they ask is covered in one way or another in the Pro 90D speech system. So if you have a question, you have to go through the video or the audio. Now, I'm not a big video guy, believe it or not. I make videos, but the way that I learn primarily is through audio. I don't do a lot of writing. I have written some things. So I do video and I do audio. So I apologize to those of you that like a lot of written stuff. I have done quite a bit, but not as much as maybe some people would like. But what you want to do is you want to get in there, you want to get in that program, and you want to work through all of those videos or audio. Why? Because the answers are in there. And you can't just do it once, because you're not going to catch everything the first time. You're going to have to go through it multiple times. Again, I have audio that I've gone through, dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of times over the years. So it's very, very important that you go through those audio or video multiple times, because each time you're going to pick up something new and different. Critically important. I have people ask me questions all the time. That's covered. It's covered in there. And so it's not impossible, but almost impossible for me to cover it in that depth. So what I have to do is maybe summarize it and then direct them to either a free program or the Pro 90D. So I just wanted to encourage you. I'd like for everyone to do the ABCs program, because it really lays a great foundation. It helps you to understand that initially you're going to have to become aware of things that you're doing when you speak. You're going to have to become aware of it. Bring it into your awareness first, and then you're going to have to substitute, that is, replace those things that you're doing currently with new behaviors. Right? You're going to have to replace them with new, but in order to replace them, you have to know that it's there. You have to become aware of it. So the ABCs walks you through that. I'd like for everyone to go through the Get Started Speaking Easier. Everyone, I'd like for you to go through that. That addresses the vast majority of the challenges that many of you are having. The vast majority. I want to say almost all, but it will address a lot of those issues. And if you go through the Get Started Speaking Easier, and you'll see it all over the place. You go to my website, you'll see it in 2 or 3 places there, or my websites. If you look in my Facebook group, you'll see it there. You'll see it on the live stream videos. I'm going to make sure that I put something there. So it's that important. It's that important that you study. It's a 34-minute audio or video. It's also in the app. I've put it in the app. I've put it in the free basic course. So even if you get the free version, it's going to be at the beginning of the 21 steps. I just put it there yesterday. It's going to be at the beginning of the ABCs, right? So it's going to be there because it's that important. Now, you got to follow it exactly. Don't deviate. Do exactly what I'm suggesting. The same thing in the Pro 90D. You got to do it exactly. If I say spend, an hour a day, and you start off, maybe you only want to spend 5 minutes a day. Just understand that, that's a good strategy to start off with a little bit of time and work your way up. Understand that the results are going to take that much longer, but if that's what you need to do, do it. But don't say, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to memorize the videos. I'm just going to watch these videos. It may help you a little. You're not going to get to where you want to be. You got to do it exactly. I'm going to have some people in maybe a couple of weeks. They're going to come on who are some current clients and some previous clients from a couple of years ago. who are going to share with you the things that have been most helpful for them. And they're doing extremely well now. Many of my clients win first place. They win ribbons at Toastmasters. Some of them are still working on their conversations. Some are doing very well in their conversations. So the proof is in the pudding. But what they're going to tell you is they're going to tell you that you got to do exactly what he says. You got to, if it says model, you got to model. If he says to pause and go, well, then you got to pause. You got to do it exactly until it becomes your own, until it becomes natural. So if you say, well, I don't really want to do that, I'll just do this. Or, yeah, I don't think I'm going to really, spend this much time. I'll just do this. Or I'll just do this a few days a week. Or I'll just watch these videos, but I don't want to memorize it because that's too hard. I don't want to model him. I'll model someone else. Now that you can do. You can model someone else because maybe there's someone else that you really like the way they speak. Maybe you don't like the way that I speak as much, or whatever the case may be. So it's okay to find another model. The only cautions I would have is to make sure that you don't find a model who speaks too fast, because that's one of the major issues for the vast majority of people who get stuck and struggle with speeches. In some kind of way, they're feeling like they rush, like they need to rush, they need to hurry up, or they're speaking kind of fast or choppy, not finishing their words, not extending. So finding someone to model who speaks that way, even though they might be a great speaker in other aspects, if they're fast, that's not going to help you. It's probably not going to help you. So you want to find someone that exhibits the proactive speaking skills that I teach. Okay, and the reason that I have my clients model me is because, first of all, they see me in videos. They hear me on the audio. They see me when we're Skyping or we're doing a Google Hangout. And they have access to probably hundreds of my videos, so it's very easy for them to model. They don't have to model me forever, just for a period of time to create that new speaking style. Okay, so I do encourage people to model me, again, not because I feel like I'm better than this person or that person, just because it's easier and I exhibit the skills that I want you to learn. Okay, so you got access, use that access and model. I've got people who will just tell you, they just modeled me, both in conversation and presentation. They just did it. They memorized the presentations. They practiced it. When they're conversing or they're speaking, they picture me in their mind. They don't have to hear. They just picture, how would he speak? How would he use his eyes? How would he use his hands? How would he use his face? What does his rhythm sound like? How would he extend words? How would he pause? Right? They picture that, and because they've practiced it by memorizing the presentations, then what happens is they're actually able to quickly create this new speaking style. So if you want something fast, modeling is the fastest way to do it. If you want proof, look at actors. Look at people who stutter, who are also actors. When they are acting, when they've taken on a new persona, they quickly, immediately change their speaking style. This is what we're talking about, right? What else? The other thing that you need to be aware of is that no matter what you do, speech therapy, McGuire program, Hollins, there's other programs as well, many other programs out there. No matter what you do, and the only exclusion would be a device, right? And you'll understand what I'm talking about in just a minute. No matter what you do, it's going to require a few things. One, it's going to require repetition. You may do something and it may help you immediately, but to make it natural, right, to make it last, it's going to require repetition, practice. Doesn't matter if it's speech therapy or not, it's going to require repetition. Repetition of what? Well, that's the second thing. It's going to require a new way. Now listen, it's going to require a new way of thinking and a new way of speaking. So no matter what you do, it's going to require you to think in a new way. Even whatever Tony Robbins did with that guy, it helped him immediately. But if he wanted to make that thing stick, it was going to require him to begin to think differently over a period of time, repetition, right? Or speaking differently, whatever it is the therapist teaches you, or whatever the program, if it's breathing or easy onset, doesn't matter. It's requiring you to speak, to do something involving speaking in a different way over a period of time. Does that make sense? Okay. So this program, this approach, some people may say, well, it just doesn't work for me. Try something else, but it's going to require you to do the same thing. So many people are looking for something that's quick and fast, so they'll spend a couple of $1,000s on a device. And I have clients who have, right? I have clients who have, and it helps them for a while, and then it stops. Or it may continue to help them, but they have to continue to wear it, buy batteries and whatever. And so if you want to improve your speech, it's going to require repetition. It's going to require a change, right? Or a new way of thinking and a new way of speaking. Now, the other thing that's very important about this approach is you're getting a 2-for-1. This isn't just about getting rid of stuttering or diminishing or improving your speech as far as just not stuttering as much. It's about going from having your speech as a deficit, as a liability, if you will, to it becoming an asset, where speech prevents you from taking advantage of certain opportunities, to speech actually opening up opportunities for you. Okay? So that's very important. That distinguishes this program from many others, is that the people that I work with, if they follow my suggestions exactly over a period of time, they go from not being able to get jobs, not being able to answer the phone, not being able to talk to family, not being able to talk as well socially, to getting promotions. And as I'm saying these things, I'm thinking of actual people that I've worked with over the last couple of years, getting huge promotions, changing jobs, starting their own businesses, winning at Toastmasters. Okay, these are just a few of the things, and just literally changing their lives as a result of not focusing on the stopping of stuttering, but focusing on this new style of speaking, this new way of thinking. So this entire session, really, if we look at it in the book, it's entitled, You Really Can Do This. You really can do this. And it's about you understanding that this is a system. It's a systematic approach. I've systematized it for you. And that you need to follow the system. And we'll review that briefly before we end. You need to follow the system. It's also about you believing that this is going to work for you. Believing that it's going to work for you. Belief is a huge part of making this work. If you say, well, I'm just going to try this, I'm going to buy the program, I'm going to try it, I would almost rather that you not buy it. I want you to be convinced first. That's why I put so much free material out there, because I want you to be convinced that this will work. This makes sense. If I do this, I know it's going to work. Absolutely convinced. Lady that I'm working with, the one that I've mentioned before, 68 years old, going to have her live pretty soon. And she says she's tried everything. She's been everywhere. I mean, literally tried just about everything. Spent 15 months in the UK, been to Scotland, been everywhere, been to the US. And she says, I know this is going to work. I just know it's going to work. And it is working. She's doing exactly what I'm asking her to do. And I'm seeing her improve every week. And she's seeing improvements. And here's the key. She's seeing these improvements in her own environment. See, we're not taking her out and putting her in another environment and getting her to improve and then putting her back in her environment, where now the stressors of her normal environment, which also cause her to, if you will, bring up or bring out that old identity. See, we have an identity for who we are and how we act in every situation. So when we're in our current environment, we have an identity for how we're going to behave at school, at work, with our family, with our friends, by ourselves. We have an identity. So we have to kind of change or create that new identity, that new speaking identity in those environments, right? If we take you out, you can develop a new identity for a different environment, but when you go back, boom, it hits you, and then there's regression, okay? Another reason that people regress is that they say, "Ooh, okay, I'm done with that program. Now I can just go back to thinking and speaking the way that I used to. I've done the program. I saw the improvements. I experienced them. I'll just go back to doing what I'm doing, and it should stick." No. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to have to memorize videos forever and practice an hour a day forever. It just means that for as long as it takes, you need to be aware of how you're speaking, right? And you need to continue to look for opportunities to speak. That's it. Just do what everyone else does, except you're going to need to really get out there and look for opportunities, create opportunities, take advantage of opportunities to speak, to use your new style. Are there going to be times when you're going to struggle? Of course there are. You're sick, anxious, nervous, not feeling well, upset about something. Then you may have to work a little harder, but you've got all the tools. If you've been working on this for months, it's becoming a natural part of how you speak. Okay? So, the thing that you have to understand is that this is probably going to take longer than you might expect. Right? It's probably going to take longer than you might expect, longer than you might want. But as I always say, so what? Right? So what if it takes you 7 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? Doesn't matter. You have the rest of your life. Even a lady who's 68, she's taking care of people who's 85, 83, and then another lady's like 95. 20-some years difference for one. This lady may have another 20 or 30 years left. Okay, that's a lifetime. So it doesn't matter if it takes her a year or 2 years. She still has a long time left, even at her age, to enjoy, as she's telling me that she's doing now. She just said she went to her religious organization, and people would sit and talk to her, and it was time for the service to start, and they had to, tell them to kind of quiet down because they were like, "You're talking now, you're speaking. I just can't believe it." So she's just really enjoying this freedom to be able to speak. It's those kind of things that I want you to experience, that you can experience. You can really do this. You just have to follow exactly what I'm saying, and you have to believe that it's possible. You have to believe that it's actually going to work. So, going back to my original point, you can't just say, "Well, I'm going to try this and see if it works." You have to say, "You know what? This will work. I'm going to not just try it, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it for as long as what? As long as it takes." Know that it's going to take upwards of about 8 months. It's about 254 days or so, and these are based on studies that it can take between 18 days, 16, 17, 18 days, and about 254, which is about 8.5 months, with an average time of being about 66 days or so, 66 to 80 some days, to cause a habit, a new habit that you've developed to reach a level of automaticity. That's where it becomes automatic and you really stop thinking about it. Okay, and that's where we want. We just want to be able to speak and not think about, "I got to do this, I got to model, I got to articulate, I got to inflate." You just want to speak freely. How long does that take? Well, it can take you up to about 8 months. And for some areas, it may take you longer. It could take you a year. It could take you 2 years. It could take you 3 years, right? But what I've done is based on my own experience personally, my experience working with people like you, my research and my studies, I'm streamlining it. I'm building a better and better and better approach, right? I'm constantly trying to outdo myself to make it better and better, to help you faster and faster. It's not going to take you as long as it took me, okay? Might not take you as long as it takes someone else. Could take you longer though. Just depends. And one of the things it depends on is your internal resistance. There are some people that have internal resistance to change. They get a lot of stuff going on in their mind. They tend to doubt things, or sometimes they commit to something and then something else happens, and so they kind of put it to the side. So all of those kinds of things will slow your progress down. Or if you are the type that says, you know what, I'm going to do this, but I don't want to do that, it's going to slow your progress down. There are people that I work with that say, whatever you tell me to do, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that's what they do, and they achieve tremendous results in 90 days. Just tremendous results. And in 7 or 8 months, they're gone. You know, they're out of here, and they're doing great things. And these are the types of people who say, whatever you tell me to do, that's what I'm going to do exactly. So, and I keep repeating that because it's very important, because there are some people that just want to take bits and pieces. And I'm repeating this because I want you to get to where you want to get as quickly as possible, just like you do. And this is the way to do it. This is the way to do it. So belief is one of the first things that you have to have. You just got to believe, you have to trust that it's going to work. Don't get involved in it. Don't spend your money, don't spend your time until you believe. Now, certainly take a look at the free programs. Try it out. Try out the free programs. Don't try the paid programs. Don't try the coaching. Commit to that. When you invest your money, you invest your time, be 100% committed. Okay. The other thing that I want to share with you is that, and this is related to your beliefs, and that is expectations, right? Expectations of yourself, expectations of what this approach can do for you. If you expect it to happen quickly, you'll probably be disappointed, and you'll get frustrated, and it'll demotivate you, and you may quit sooner. Someone actually wrote a log, a journal of their progress through using the Pro 90D. I think it was over a period of a few months, and said it took them about 4 months. At first, they weren't hardly experiencing any results, but they just trusted that it was going to work, and they kept doing it. And then, 2, 3, 4 months, and they would see little results. But a few months into it, all of a sudden, boom, their speech just rapidly improved. Now, they're still working, right? I'm sure that they're still working, but they saw great improvements because they stuck with it. So what are your expectations of yourself and of this kind of approach? You got to have realistic expectations, okay? And we just talked about the time period that it would probably take. So make sure you set your expectations realistically and say, I'm going to commit, going to do this for as long as it takes, however long that is, because I believe it's going to work. So don't believe that you're investing in something that may or may not work, because then you'll try to get out. You'll say, I've been doing this for 30 days, or I've been doing it for 2 months, and I'm not really getting any results. Or I've gotten results here, but not in my conversation. I got it in my presentations, but not over here. So you got to ask yourself a couple of questions. One, am I practicing enough? What am I practicing? Am I modeling? Have I memorized presentations? Am I presenting that not just to myself, but to other people? Or am I actually at work using this new speaking style to do the presentations I have to do at work or school, right? Am I conscious all the time of how I'm speaking, or just when I need it? Do I just use a technique when I need it, or am I conscious of it all the time? Ask yourself this question. Have I gone through all the material multiple times to answer my questions or solve my problems? Or have I even written Michael and said, you know what, having an issue with this, what about that? And did I write to him about something that's already there, okay, that maybe I can go back and look at and apply it? So make sure that you ask yourself those questions. Now, what I like to do now is a quick review of the steps in this approach, okay? So let me just jump back a chapter here. And we're going to run through the steps that we covered last week, okay? So remember, it's a systematic approach. And this was based on one of my very first programs, an audio program called the DAM Strategy. And I've had people tell me, I had a college student tell me, got the DAM strategy? I got the DAM strategy. And I used it, and it worked. I started to slack off, and my speech started to kind of come back, right? And so I kept going. I just got back into it, and my speech started to improve. So here are the steps. Just had a little reminder pop up there. Here are the steps. Step 1, you pick a model. Pick a model, right? Very important. Step 2, pattern yourself after that model. Yes, you can do that in conversations as well, okay? 3, prepare presentations to help you master your model's speaking style. Fastest way. You can prepare your own while using your model's speaking style, or you can memorize presentations from your model. Okay. 4, practice those presentations in private. Why? There's usually less stress. So you practice them in private first. 5, present those presentations in public under pressure. Family, friends, and then in public. If you're already working and you have to do presentations there, great. You take that speaking style and you apply it to those presentations. You make sure that you internalize the information, though. So if you have a presentation at work, don't try to go in unprepared. That's going to cause anxiety. And that anxiety is going to cause your old speaking style to come out. So what you have to do is you have to internalize whatever material or content you have to present at work so that you really don't have to use notes except for maybe some detailed information. But you can internalize it so you can speak it as though it's coming from you, right? So you internalize it, you practice it, and then you present it at work or at school, okay? That's step 5. So you got to go out and you got to do it under pressure. Now remember, when you're presenting under pressure, maybe the first time you do it, that new style may not work exactly the way that you want it to, but you just got to keep doing it. Eventually it will work. Step 6, push yourself to use a modified version of your presentation style in daily conversations. So what do we mean there? You got your presentation style down. I've had people says, yeah, I can go win at Toastmasters, but then when I converse, I'm still struggling. My advice is, if you can't modify it, just take your presentation style, start out using it in your conversations, and then you can quickly modify it down. So if I'm talking to someone, says, hey, so how are you doing today, man? And then it may sound a little funny at first, right? But then I can quickly say, okay, let me tone down my facial expression, let me tone down my inflections, tone down my articulation, tone down. You can do that. You're capable of doing that. So you just start out like that. I don't say continue to speak that way. I say start that way, and then as you see it working, tone it down. Someone says, well, no. Actually, I had someone a couple of weeks ago, and I may have mentioned this. They said, you know what? I like a refund because I'm using the presentation style in my conversations, and people are laughing at me. Gave them a refund just like that, and it said, hey, what's funnier? Stuttering, getting stuck, not being able to say anything, or speaking fluently using somewhat of a dramatic presentation style initially. It's not forever, just might be initially. And initially could mean minutes to maybe days or weeks or a month. So what? So what if it takes you a month to figure out how can I use this presentation style but modify it down so it becomes more conversational? So what if it takes you a month? You have the rest of your life to speak well, right? To be a master communicator, a master conversationalist. So forget about what other people are saying. If you're younger, I know that may be more difficult, but what are your alternatives? You can go out and you can try the alternatives, and if they work for you, great. But if they don't, it's going to come right back to this, right? So Forget about what people say. Often people aren't saying anything. Often people are impressed. But if they laugh at you, they're probably not your friends anyway. Right? Sometimes even your family may say, oh, you're speaking strange. Well, yeah, they are your family, but you just have to do it anyway. And I've had clients say, well, my wife said, why are you speaking like Michael Williams? Later on, she appreciated that he's now helping her with her speech. Okay? So you just got to get in there. You have to do it and not think about what other people are saying, because a lot of the times other people aren't saying anything. They aren't thinking anything. Sometimes they're thinking in a positive way, and for those few people who think in a negative way, forget about them, okay? So you got to push yourself to use a modified version in your everyday speech. Just take the presentation style and use it. Now, I want you to take this. Stop. I want you to take this and go back and watch the Get Started Speaking Easier, right, where I talk about how to get started, and we're going to probably do a series on that. I want you to take this advice and put it with that. The way you get started, then you go into using your presentation style. You'll understand what I mean when you watch that training. It's only 34 minutes, okay? Step 7 is what? You repeat steps 2 through 7, right? So this is a cycle. It's a system. All right, a couple more things that I want to mention, then we'll wrap it up. Number 1, speaking is both a skill and a habit. It's a pattern. It's a skill. It's something you can learn. There are all kinds of schools and training to help people learn how to improve their public speaking. Toastmasters, right? Speaking and the way we think about speaking, the way we think about ourselves, is a learnable skill. Remember that. Remember that. Speaking is also a habit. It's something we do, and all of the thought processes that come along with it is a habit. It's a pattern of thinking and of speaking. It's a pattern. People who struggle with speech, who stutter, or in certain situations, situational stuttering, they start to stutter. Maybe they don't stutter any other time, just in these certain situations. They have developed, and there could be a variety of reasons, but they've developed a belief, right, a memory, a pattern of neurological connections that tells them, that says, that's triggered, okay, when you're in this situation, when you have to say this, when you feel like this is the way you're going to speak. And so they do. There may be a gene, right? It may be genetic that says this person's going to stutter. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's genetic. It doesn't matter if it's a belief. It doesn't matter, because even if it's genetic, speaking is a skill and it's a habit. That should give you hope. Why? You can develop new skills. You can improve skills, right? You can develop new habits to replace old habits. Now here's the thing. The old habit is still there. It really never goes away completely, except through disease or injury. So that old style, that old habit or pattern of speaking is still there. And it's always competing for a while, right? It's competing with the new one. So that's what makes this very, very difficult. It's not like you're just, you have a fresh, clean slate and you're just learning how to talk for the first time. You're actually competing with something you've been doing probably for decades. So it makes it difficult, but not impossible. In fact, nowhere near impossible. In fact, you can do it in a relatively short period of time, okay? So what you have to do is, because the old one's still there, you have to spend some intensive time creating and using the new habit, the new skill, right? Here's the old one, here's the new one. You got to use the new one so that the old one becomes weaker and the new one becomes stronger. Think of it like a relationship. You have an old bad relationship that you want to get out of. And if you keep going back, calling the person, talking to them, spending time with them, then that old relationship's still going to be there, and all the old feelings and habits and things are going to continue to carry on. Make sense? So think about you find a new relationship. How do you strengthen that new relationship? You spend time with them. You spend time dialoguing and doing things with that new person in that new relationship. Then it strengthens. And simultaneously, you stay away from the old person so that it weakens. The memory of it is still there. That person's still there unless they die, right? But it weakens, okay? It's the same exact thing here. It's the same exact thing. You got this new style that you've developed. Now you got to spend time using it all the time, all the time. Granted, when you first start, you're not going to use it all the time. You're going to have to remind yourself, right? It's going to be hard. Sometimes you're going to forget. Don't get frustrated. Just stay on it. Eventually you will get it, just like any other habit. So you remind yourself, and you stay away from the old one. Because every time you don't remind yourself and you just let yourself use the old style, you're just reinvigorating that old style, keeping those connections strong, keeping that relationship strong. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So you have to create this new style, this new relationship, and then you have to nurture it by thinking about it, by watching someone else do it, by listening to someone else do it, by doing it yourself all the time. That's the secret. That's the secret. So, what are the next steps? The next steps is go back through, watch all these videos multiple times, jump into my free ABCs course, get the 21 Steps course. If I were to advise you to do anything first, get into that Get Started Speaking Easier training right now. Do that first, then do the other things. What's next? After you do the free stuff, do the Pro 90D speech system. It's comprehensive. If you follow it, it's going to improve your speech. Get into my Facebook group. Got about 150 people in there now, encouraging each other, meeting with each other. We're going to start doing some other things. Perhaps next year we're even going to do something live. It's not going to be like you come here and when you leave you're not going to struggle anymore, but you're going to come and you're going to walk away with something, and you're going to walk away with a system and a community that you can plug into. Yes, I'm going to make sure that happens. Get the iPhone app. Android's coming. Within a month or two, it's coming. Get that app. You got it on your phone. You got everything on there. You can watch. You can listen to it. You can track your progress. You can schedule reminders to remind yourself, okay, I got to use my new style. Right? You can do all that stuff there. You can watch this there on your iPhone. Get that iPhone app. Okay, it's worth the investment. Get the Android app when that comes out. Invest the time and a little bit of money into yourself, and trust me, you'll never regret it. Never regret it. The other thing that you need to realize is that people have gone out and they've spent a couple $1,000s on a device. They've spent $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 on other programs, and that's fine. Do your homework. Make sure that before you do that, you understand what's required of you, because I'm just telling you, and you don't have to listen to me. You can check out my Facebook group, talk to people that have gone through this, and they're going to tell you almost all of them have gone through all of those other programs, right? Or at least many of them have gone through some of those programs. And they're going to tell you that this really works and it's worth the investment of time and money. So I have people that's gone out and spend tens of thousands, and they don't have any more money now to devote to this, which is going to work. And I'm not promising you that in 2 days or 3 days or 7 days or 30 days, boom, you're going to be done. I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you realistically what is required of you. And that's how you know that this really works. Because I'm being honest and I'm saying, yeah, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take more time. And here are some folks who are going through or have gone through it, and they're doing well, and you can talk to them if you like, okay? So just be very careful about investing your money and your time in things that promise you things that may or may not work, or may require of you something that you're not willing to do. All right? So with that being said, have any other questions? I'm going to leave some links for you. Please feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you very much for following this series, and I'll be posting a new series not next week, but the week after. Okay? This is Michael Williams, and I'll